Hey everyone, people always ask me, do you still have all your fish tanks? Sorry about that annoying light. I'm gonna have to turn on like that paint drying lamp so I can do some maintenance. And then I'm gonna try to get off to the store and get new light bulbs for this. Because they're obviously bad. At least it kind of stopped flickering as it's heating up. I don't think it's gonna catch though. I'm gonna go replace those pretty soon because the store closes at 6. It's the day before Thanksgiving. People always ask me, do you still have your fish tanks? Yes, I have them, but only one of them is operating, and I'm gonna talk about what used to be in these tanks and why I'm not replacing them. Reason I'm not replacing them is because I don't feel that I'm home enough to manage these fish tanks. And that's the simple answer. I'm not gonna get any pets while I'm not home most of the time anymore. And the only remaining animal here is in this terrarium. This is where Culvert the frog used to live. Lived in there at least 3 years, then mysteriously one day disappeared. Must have died, decomposed. It's very humid in there. Anything that died would decompose extremely fast. Or if it fell in the water, the placa would eat it. That's the last remaining fish I have. This Plecostomus here. I do have a pet snake and a pet cat, which will be around for hopefully a lot longer. There it is. The big Placo in that cave. I built this cave a while back because there was a Jack Dempsey, and the Jack Dempsey would not go inside that cave to pick on this fish. And then when the Jack Dempsey was sleeping at night, this one could come out. It's mostly nocturnal anyways, a Placo. Today we're going to be performing some maintenance on this tank. So what that means is, first off, you see the plants. A lot of the leaves are dead. I'm going to go ahead and grab a whole bunch of those leaves. You see the plant's a little bit yellow. That's because I just put a brand new ultraviolet light. The other one burned out about a week ago. It took about a week for this one to come in the mail. That's why the plant's a little bit yellow. I'm sure that'll bounce back fairly fast. Water in here is nice and warm. I'm going to fill it up a little bit. I have my line of the perfect spot. And for circulation, look what I built. Over here is one filter, pumps it up onto the top. That's an aluminum gutter. Then it comes over here and it goes down the drain, and this other filter is also pouring into the gutter, and they meet in the middle. I'll show you what I'm talking about, and as soon as I open this thing up and do my maintenance, I'll show you it all nice and cleaned up. I'm going to vacuum the gravel, even though it really doesn't need it. Fish tanks really don't need a lot of maintenance when they're established, especially with one creature in there, which is a janitor. I'm sure I'm going to find a lot of poop in the gravel. I shouldn't say that word. A lot of people assume silt in an aquarium is poop. It's not. It's silt. It's already broken down, basically soil, just like in a pond. People don't say the mud in the bottom of a pond is dirty, do they? I don't know why people have that mentality that in an aquarium it's because it's dirty. It's not. That's actually beneficial for the aquarium and healthy. And for the animals, I'm sure they like it. It's more like in their natural habitat, like a pond. And it's good for the person that owns the aquarium. You really don't have to do maintenance that much. This aquarium here, I only vacuum the gravel about once a year. Every 2 months or so, I do a partial water change. It's self-contained. It got a glass cover. That inch a drop, that's 2 months. It barely evaporates this tank. Yep. And probably once a month I do water test. pH, ammonia, nitrates, just to make sure they're within safe levels. If all that's fine, the fish are fine. This fish right here is 12 years old. I'll be doing a lot of maintenance on that. I got to cut all the dead leaves. Because just like any plant, leaves die. And in a very humid place, they kind of start rotting in there. This is Pothos. It really loves being in aquariums. It doesn't need any soil. It just lives off the aquarium. Very nicely, I should mention. Look at this, it's crawling way down on the floor. This vine, I'm hoping will bounce back. It's still got one good leaf. Like I said, light's been out in here for about 7 days, maybe a little bit longer. And that started it on its path to dying out. But you see, this is a gutter. The front end of it, I folded over so you could see it when the frog was sitting in there. It wasn't overgrown back then. I'm probably going to remove half of this plant. I remember one time I put it on the side of the road. I put it in a bucket saying free pothos. Nobody wanted it, so I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to throw it right in the compost pile. Because these, I could break off just a single leaf, stick it into some moist dirt in a pot. Now you got a houseplant. That stuff is very resilient. But anyways, you see this filter's pouring in here. That one's going all the way down the trough, and it comes out right here. You see the pipe, which would have gone into the downspout on the house. I took that when they were replaced on the house and added it into here. Now behind me, this right here used to be more of a quarantine tank. Sometimes I had a mean cichlid that we called Professor Wau, a minkly cichlid. That was the one that died recently, probably about 6 months ago from a swim bladder issue. It was like swimming sideways for months. But it was healthy, it was eating and stuff, but it eventually died after a while of that. That was kind of sad because my dad bought me that when I was 10 years old from a store in East Longmeadow, Mass. Called A.W. Brown's. Someone surrendered it there, and the fish was already at least 10 years old. They gave it to us really cheap. That fish was worth a lot, but it was mean, so they were willing to let it go for just $10. And it lived until I was 21, and that fish, it had to have been over 20 years old. It was an old fish. It lived perfectly in my father's community tank for like 5 years. Then one night it snapped. It killed everything in the tank but the suckerfish. And ever since, it had to be alone. Up top here, I had my really big Placo fish that you've seen in my old videos. I do the time lapse of the tank all filthy. Because what I would do is, a lot of times, probably once every couple weeks, I would switch the minky cichlid with the Placos. I'd let this thing green up for like 2 weeks or so with the ultraviolets, switch them again, then they'd have a blast just cleaning the glass. Unfortunately, they died just over a year ago, and that's because of a malfunction. That heater right there stopped working, and this is a basement where it's 50 degrees. Tropical fish couldn't handle it. I found out that it had that problem. I don't know how long they were without heat, but I went right to the store. I even bought 2 heaters for them, just for it would never happen again. You never want to put a heater that's too big for the tank, because if the thermostat malfunctions, it'll bake the tank. But you can have 2 that are rated for the tank, because if one breaks, the other one's not going to bake it, and they're both not going to bake it together because the chances of both thermostats going bad at the same time is pretty low. But even with those 2 heaters in there, one of them passed away after like an hour when I got the heaters. I even put boiling water in the tank to try to get it warmer faster. The next one died 2 days later. It didn't matter that the heat was on. The damage was already done to the animal. See in here, that's a piece of reinforced 4-inch culvert pipe in there. Got a clay pipe, Placo's old cave. That's a 55-gallon tank. Yep. I'm going to keep all this stuff, so someday when I do want to get animals again, I can pretty easily. This tank here is going to have to be, like, really washed. Algae is so hard to get off, especially when I let it harden like that in there, all dry. There was some weird type of algae in there towards the end that the Placos refused to eat, and you had to use like a steel brush to get it off. It was tough. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start giving this tank a cleaning. I think I'm going to give you guys a time lapse of me doing so. Alright everyone, I just stirred up that tank a lot. The water's a bit discolored, there's a lot of silt floating around. That will clear up probably just in a couple hours after I stop messing with it. See that? I probably removed maybe 70% at least. But give it 6 months. It'll be just that bad again. I have to do this once or twice a year. Look at all that pothos plant. I left the ones that are growing outside because I think that's pretty cool. They can drape down the back of the tank all they like. The roots of this were inside the filter cartridges. Sometimes they even get into where the impeller is. See, the filter cartridges aren't even that dirty. This is all silt from the leaves dying, falling off. It just builds up like anything that's neglected in nature. Grass clippings, it'll just keep accumulating, turning into soil as it rots. And this is even rooting into that. That's good for the plants. That's good for the aquarium. It may not be the most attractive thing, but it's okay. All this stuff here, I'm going to spray this off. All the dirty leaves from the rot, it's all over them. I'm going to spray all that off, get it into the water, and then I'm going to vacuum all this stuff up. Then I'm going to refill it, doing about a 50% water change today. Look at this, even a little gargoyle here. I put that there a long time ago. I set this whole thing up here probably 7 years ago now. I have old videos of all this stuff on Post 10. Building this little thing, building all kinds of things in other aquariums too. These plants are even producing a little bit of swamp oils in there. Alright, time to get the aquarium vacuum out. Spray all this off, get the gravel cleaned up, fill it back up, and then we're going to get the aquarium squeegee, the magnet, and we're going to clean this up so it's crystal clear. This is the way I designed it to be. The frog was in there sitting. You could watch it. It could easily get in and out of there because the water's supposed to be up a little bit more. Frog loved this thing for like 3 years. Temperature in there is 74 Fahrenheit. So the aquarium vacuum, here's how that works. See how this comes up? Up, it's going to fill the tank. Out, creates a suction so you can vacuum the gravel. And yes, it does waste water doing that. But that's okay. We don't have any water shortages around here. And here's the end of it. Just like a big vacuum. Watch the suction. Whoop. And that's how you vacuum the gravel. Look at all that crud. But it leaves the gravel behind. Yep. Hose is empty now. Here comes the water. And now this is what I'm using to clean off all the plants. It's just like a rainstorm, cleaning everything. Washing it into the water. Give it a couple days, I'm going to vacuum the gravel again. Because once it clears up, there is going to be some silt in there. That's going to have to be cleaned up again. Now that I've interrupted everything. Because this was like a little ecosystem up on the platform. I washed all that sediment into the water, and I'm going to have to get that out. Probably going to give it a day. Yep, then I'll do that. Let it fill back up, and that'll clear up briefly. Alright everyone, here's what the aquarium looks like after 2 cleanings and letting the water clear up. I added a second heater to this tank just so the temperature could recover faster, because after doing a partial water change, water dropped back to about 70 degrees. This was just to get it to heat up faster. Now it's nice and clean for the Placo, and those plants, that'll grow back to like it was yesterday within a month. These kind of plants actually like that silt in there. I know it's not desirable, but that's literally what it is. It's just mud. Like, see all that built up behind the bricks? It's just silt. See the roots going right into it? They like that. I'm sure the people who complain about aquariums having that silt, they would hate to see someone who has a dirt bottom aquarium. A lot of terrariums, people use dirt instead of gravel at the bottom, and those aquariums are always a disaster. You can't see in them well if you have fish constantly stirring it up and digging. I hope today's video was interesting of trimming the pothos plants in the aquarium. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.